lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name is Ryan, and with me again, my awesome co-host Manny. With me, we are going to be talking about a favorite of both of ours. It was one of Manny's picks for 2022. I had set in there that I was waiting for the trade. I wanted to finish it off all in one reading, and I did that. We're going to do a Powerbomb by Daniel Warren Johnson and Mike Spicer on colors. First of all, this cover with the spot gloss on the character Cobra.
I can see it. Yeah,
pretty dope. I really like that.
I'm definitely gonna double dip on that. I'm gonna probably pick that up tomorrow when I get my weekly books.
Yeah, it was something I was definitely looking forward to, and like part of me kind of was hoping maybe they would do like a deluxe hardcover like they did with Murder Falcon, and I feel like they might still. Who knows? But yeah. I couldn't wait. You know, I read the first half. I loved it, dude. But the second half is just like this entire book. I mean, Daniel Warren Johnson is one of the best cartoonists.
He's probably of the last when I discovered him, which was when I picked up Wonder Woman Dead Earth randomly. I mean, I had been aware of him because of Murder Falcon and I think Extremity was the other title he'd been drawing. And I'm like, bro, this guy has a very unique style, so I would always flip through it. But I never actually bought anything, and then I picked up Wonder Woman Dead Earth because everything about it was really cool. Like the logo looked like a metal logo, and and I was like, bro, this guy's art is something else. And then from then on, I'm like, I'm just gonna grab anything he does. So I got his Beta Ray Bills mini, which was fantastic also. But so far, I think this might be my favorite thing he's done.
You know, it's funny because I feel like that's I say that my friends and I at the shop say this about Brubaker and Phillips. Like when you're like, oh, what's your favorite one? And it's usually whatever we read last. And yeah, it's starting to be like that for me with him because I feel like
I can see that.
Everyone's asking me, like, they used to ask me, what's your favorite? I was like, oh, Extremity. Like, that was the first thing I checked out of his. And then I read, oh my God, the name's escaping me, but that book he did with Donny Cates. And then after that, obviously, I went from that to Murder Falcon. And then I went to Wonder Woman Dead Earth and then do a Powerbomb and Beta Ray Bill and do a Powerbomb. It's all of it, dude. It's just it's all amazing. It's so cool to get to see him not just writing or not just drawing, that he's doing it all himself, except for that one book he did for DC, the
Ghost Fleet was the name of the book he did.
Ghost Fleet. Okay, yeah. Dude, that book is dope. And then he did Jurassic League also, obviously with the DC, but he didn't draw that.
Yeah, I forgot. He didn't draw that, but he wrote it, and the art was obviously they went for someone that was sort of in a similar style, and that was one of the most fun books of last year. Also,
I haven't read that book. I'll definitely check it out. But I think he's at his best when he's doing these indie books and he's doing a creator own, even though the other ones definitely have his touches on it. And he obviously talks about it too, right? Like how he discovered wrestling, which I don't know if that was in the single issue.
It is, that. And he's also the letter columns for these are really amazing. And one of the things I love about him is how much he engages his fans and how forthcoming he is with the information that he shares. And he did mention in one of the columns that he really wasn't a huge wrestling fan until very recently, and then he just took a deep dive in,
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because the way he discovers it is he's a new dad, right?
Yeah,
he's up all night, he's looking for something to watch to kind of keep his mind, occupied, and that's how he starts watching wrestling. For me, mine's the reverse. I was a kid. And I watched wrestling when I was little, and then I just got to an age where I'm I don't want to watch this anymore. Yeah. It's just not my thing. But I grew up with Jake the Snake, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, all those guys. I had the wrestling ring, I had the fucking action figures. I'm not gonna lie, dude. This kind of makes me want to watch New Japan stuff.
It actually did, man, and it also got me into watching AEW. I haven't watched it in the last few weeks because I've been so busy, with work and all these, recording and writing but they're sitting on my DVR and I'm slowly getting back into wrestling, and some of it is friends that I have that I've recommended, but a lot of it was reading Do A Powerbomb, and I was like, fuck, bro, I really do miss wrestling.
Yeah,
and it's a great comic if you to sort of highlight what so many of us already knew, especially in the kayfabe community, is that how closely tied comics and wrestling are. They're almost sides of the same coin, you know, like,
Yeah.
and we'll get into that when we talk about the book.
Yeah, I mean, look, I definitely had a different opinion of wrestling and what wrestling was based on some of the stuff like the 2000s and stuff. I just like looked at some of the wrestling. I'm like, this just,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be mean, but some of it just felt corny to me, you know? And
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
but my buddy Nick, who like I work at the shop with him and my other friend Kevin, like they go to wrestling shows. And like when I started working there, I'm like, what? Like, what? You guys go to wrestling shows, but then they started explaining it to me, and then they started talking about some of like the characters, you know. I'm like, that sounds kind of cool, actually, you know. Like, and they
Yeah.
watch
Yeah.
AEW, they're like, oh, we don't watch WWE, like that's not what we watch. We watch like New Japan, watch AEW, all that stuff, and just like, and then listening to them get super into it, especially like Nick with like this one customer, he comes in with his kid. Like his older teenage kid, and his kid doesn't like wrestling at all. So he'll like go off and get his comics, but they'll start talking about it. I'm like, fuck, I kind of want to watch it. But I know a lot of it's like it's like pay-per-view, some of it, right? And then some
Some
of
of
it
it, yeah.
is
AEW
different.
is on a couple of cable channels, but they have started now doing pay-per-view events,
Yeah.
and I think New
So
Japan Wrestling is behind some kind of paywall also.
yeah, so it kind of changed my opinion of wrestling. You know, I'm like, okay, this actually looks and sounds a lot cooler than what I was thinking. Teaching me the different phrases like the heel and stuff. I didn't know what the fuck that was like a
Heel
couple
turn,
of years ago.
face turn,
Yeah,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, all that stuff. Like I didn't understand it. You know, or they talk about a certain match and what they're like, oh my god, I can't believe they did. You know, like so that just kind of got me more accepting of wrestling than I probably was prior to that. So then this book comes out, and I knew that he was working on this book because Nick went to a wrestling show with Daniel Warren Johnson and one of the head guys at Skybound at the time, and they went to
Oh,
Chicago,
nice.
so they hung out with him, and he was like, so he told me he's working on a wrestling comic. I'm like, dude, that sounds dope because he did like that Inktober one year where it was all wrestling
Yeah,
characters.
I remember. Yeah,
So
I
like
remember that.
it just seems like, and this is like his forte, dude. Like we talked about certain artists where like you feel the energy. Daniel Warren Johnson is one of those artists, and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
choreography
I
that
mean, his art kind of like, to me, that the way I describe his art is like it vibrates when I read it. Like it's like vibrating on the page,
yeah.
like
I
with
mean,
energy. Like it's like this potential energy that becomes kinetic energy when you read it.
I know, dude. It's just like all the choreography, all the lettering, the hand lettering, the sound effects in this book. It's just like,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
everything
Shout
really.
shout out to Russ Wooten, the letterer too, man. Like who I think is some. I think he primarily works with Mike Spicer and Russ Wooten. Pretty
This
sure
is
that
yeah,
Russ. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Russ Wooten did like the lettering on Beta Ray Bill and all that kind of stuff.
hmm
Like so, it shows you how much he values like working with the same team, and he's achieved something that he wants to keep doing. But because you said it, man, the energy on these pages is like phenomenal. Like I love this here. Like you could just feel that punch,
Oh
like
yeah,
fantastic.
I
But
know,
then you
dude.
have like he's also so good at like these quiet moments. Like you feel like that moment between like Lorna and her and her and her I think that's her dad or her uncle like hugging. Like it's it's amazing, amazing. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
her uncle.
but that's the thing I'm talking about too. Like, is that all of his books, like they all have that imprimatur that you know what I mean. Like he has that level of action and insanity that's in the art, but then those quiet moments, whether it is in his creator own or it's in a book like Wonder Woman Dead Earth, or a book like Beta Ray Bill, like he does those quiet moments so well. But I love his fight scenes, dude. I love his fight scenes. They're so fucking action packed, and like I said, like I don't know a lot of wrestling, but I know that I've heard other people talk that know wrestling and stuff saying like the moves that he's doing in here are so accurate, like to what like some of the moves that you would see on in real wrestling, like
Oh
this,
yeah, yeah.
like this one is just like it's that shit's crazy, dude.
Dude, I love it. And I mean, we haven't gotten into the plot, but if
Yeah, yeah,
if
yeah.
you're watching this and you haven't read it, basically, "Do a Powerbomb" is story about a young woman named I think what's her first name is Lorna, right?
Steel Rose.
Steel Rose is her wrestling name, right?
Yeah, I don't think they actually say.
No, Steel Rose was her mother.
Yeah, but she goes by Steel Rose as well.
Yeah, she does. That's right. But Steel. So basically, she's a young wrestler whose mother was died in a very tragic accident when a wrestling match went wrong, and a move that the two wrestlers were doing didn't work out like it had been choreographed, and she dies in the ring. So she becomes a wrestler, always living under her mother's shadow because her mother was like one of the greatest wrestlers of all time,
Mm-hmm.
and she's having a hard time getting into it. So here's where the comic book element comes in. She gets approached by a necromancer who's holding an interdimensional, intergalactic wrestling competition, and the award to the winner is anything you wish. So she's doing this to try and get her mother back.
No, it's everybody that they go to is given the chance to bring
that's
somebody
right.
back.
It is. Yeah, it is. You're correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that you can bring somebody back because every wrestler has that. It's great, man. And like that setup alone, you know, is gonna have like a lot of emotional impact because now you're having someone that's wrestling for something very personal, something very like tragic to bring somebody back. So like that's something Daniel Warren Johnson does so well, like we talked about earlier, is that he drops these little emotional core moments that just make that action that much more impactful.
Yeah.
And so we don't want to ruin it because part of the pleasure, I think, of reading Do a Powerbomb is like some of the twists and the way
it's still too fresh. It's still too new of a title.
The trade just came out, so like basically that's a setup. But just know that there's a lot of revelations. Each issue is has a newer and newer revelation that builds on the previous one to the point where like it all comes together in one fantastic final match, and like it's great.
I love because the whole opening is what you just described, right? You was Steel Rose versus Cobra Sun, which is the other, I would say, the
main character.
The co-main character, right? And like just the panel where he's on the ropes and you see the wobble, the wobble, like because he's about to do the move and then he slips, which is what happens. It's an accident. It's not just, like, and then you just hear you see the crack and you're just like, oh my God. And then watching Lorna fucking run up to the fucking stage, dude. And
as a little girl,
like it's just like the emotion there. And then her uncle is Yua's brother. And as she gets older, like you said, like she wants to be a wrestler, but nobody wants to help train her. And they don't want to because of the way her mom died. And there's so many of those moments. And then like when she does go with the necromancer, right? Who does he team her up with? Because she doesn't have a partner. The man who killed her mom, or not killed, but the man who was responsible for her mother's death. And like that right there, like the connection between those two and them having to work together, and she hates him, obviously, right? Like she can't separate the fact that it was an accident. She just looks at him like, no, you're the one that's responsible. And so like then she has to train with him, and like them kind of coming together and slowly coming together to like becoming more of a team. And like then the people they're fighting, like the different groups. I really love this particular page where we see the different.
Yes, dude.
First of all, it cannot be ignored. His costume design for all of these wrestlers is so dope.
I want to read stories about all these wrestlers. Like they're really well done, man. And like the name, I was gonna say, like I love the tag team names. Like
look at this Orangabang. They're orangutans, dude.
Like he's created such a fleshed out world. Even though all we're really doing is following the story of like Steel Rose and Cobra Sun for the most part. But like even some of those minor characters, like he's so great at, like you said, costume designing, the name, and even the clear motivation that all these, because from like you said, all these characters are in this competition for the same reason. So that already is adding like a layer of gravity to all of them. That you sort of feel for all of them, and it gives each match such high stakes.
The other team, the basic, and like, yes, there's a lot of twists and turns. We don't have to get into that, but even so much as like, because like Cobra Sun, after this is what I like about him too. Like it's a redemption for him. So she's doing it for her own motivation, but his motivation is also, who does he want to bring back? He wants to bring U.S. Steel Rose back too. And you
because he feels guilty for what he did. He's
right.
Not, like, he was in, to use a wrestling term, he was a heel, but we all, if you watch wrestling, fake is not what wrestling is, because it's still a choreographed athletic event. But
Mhm.
it is choreographed. So like when people are wrestling, they do have to be very careful in how they do their moves, because if it's done wrong, people get hurt. I mean, it's happened in real wrestling. So
Yeah.
like that, like you said, that his motivation is as powerful, because he's been carrying this guilt around for many years.
Yeah. I mean, look, and then he ends up having to go do like I don't know the way to describe it, but the type of wrestling he's doing are like death match almost, like where they're using like chairs with barbed wire wrapped around, and like he's
Yeah,
coming out.
he's fallen like from the because him, and when it starts, he's from what I can tell anyway, in this world, like Steel Rose is probably like the greatest face that they have, and he's like the greatest heel. So like that these were like the top wrestlers of their league, and he's fallen from grace.
That panel, dude, with him and his bloody back.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, like you can tell how much research Daniel Warren Johnson did. He must have watched like endless hours of wrestling, like looked at like old school wrestling mags to like get like moments like that, man. Like not just the matches, but he captures like moments after the match or before the match.
Look at this dude. Look at this dude.
Dude,
That's
I love
the
Daniel, man.
necromancer,
Like,
and he's like it's because I love pro wrestling. He's just like you can just like feel it.
yeah, like he's almost like the ultimate like nerdy fan of wrestling. Like
Blows me away. Like it's one that I had a hard time putting down. Like we were supposed to record this a week before we're actually recording right now. So I read the first half at night, and it was late, and I'm like, fuck. I'm like, I don't want to like start like powering through it and not really taking it in.
absorbing it, yeah.
Yeah, and then when you messaged me that like we weren't gonna record, I'm like, fuck, should I just wait for the other half? I'm like, no, I can't. And I was already awake. I'm like, I'm just reading it. Like I can't not read this now. I need to know how this ends. From the twists and turns too, like some of the stuff that I didn't expect to see coming, and like just who they fight at the end too, and like
Yeah, who they fight is crazy. I did not see that coming. Like,
I didn't see that. Yeah, dude.
and the I guess for lack of a better word, the character they fight at the end,
Yeah,
like it's such a unique design and such a unique take on what he is. Like
yeah. I know
it's
the
hard to
tag.
talk about it without ruining
But
it.
that
But
tag team though, dude, that tag team they fight right before the actual final fight was insane, dude. Like they just because you just look at them like, oh, it's just this fucking dude, this tag team they had to fight, but then you hear their backstory, and then you're like, oh my god. And then what they decide to do it doesn't ruin anything, but after they win, right? Like what takes place from that is fucking
that's
intense.
what I was saying earlier. It's like even like the other tag teams they fight, like there's emotional because of the setup of the story and the plot with bringing somebody back. It creates such a strong motivation for each character that like you you really feel these fights, man. Like he's Daniel Warren Johnson to me, like he like we obviously like the obvious thing that you notice right off the bat is the energy he has. But like it would not be as great as it is without that emotional core that he infuses in everything that he does. And that's what sets it apart from like other wrestling comics, and other comics that are so like eye popping to begin with, because he's not resting strictly on his artistic ability. He's also a fantastic writer on top of it.
Yes,
Like
yes.
he's both. The single
So
issues had such great covers, man.
oh yeah, I mean that's and I love that he put all the variants too in the back.
Yes, and he's got variants by like James Herron, who does Ultrameg, like another fantastic book. I can't wait for that one to come back. Like I love this cover here, like the stark white.
No,
Like he's
his
so good at drawing. Like he's also very good at different perspectives, because he's great at like extreme close-up perspectives, which you see constantly in some of the wrestling matches. But he's also great, to me, one of the strengths he has is doing these great pullback scenes where
yeah.
like he crams so much art into like the image.
I love the black and white too that you get of the covers.
Yes, dude. And again, like you have the trade, but he's one of these creators that is really great about including amazing stuff in his back matter. Like each issue has like, yes, dude, that's one of my favorite covers too.
It's so dope.
Like each issue has like a bunch of fan art that people send in, and he publishes it. Obviously, letters. Like I love seeing stuff like that in this book because it makes you realize that, like how much people love the book and are wanting to be a part of it somehow. And he's welcoming of all that. Like you know, he's very engaging with his fan base, which is something that I think is important for creators because it creates a sense of community. And like he does it in all his series, and he does it online, and then do a power bomb since it's his own. Like he's able to do as much of it as he wants. And each issue is just loaded with great stuff, man. I mean, I'm not trying to say don't pick up the trade because I'm gonna double dip, but like
Yeah.
this was one of those things that I loved reading month to month. And the day it came out, it's like you and I have talked about this. Like you like to save your best book for last sometimes, and I get that, and I used to do that, but would do a power bomb like as driving home. It's like I would just be like, I gotta read this as soon as I get home, like
Yeah.
I could not wait.
Well, hold on. Sometimes it's not necessarily that I always save my favorite book for last. It's that, like, let's say if I put it in order of like most excitement to, I guess, least excitement. I hate to say it that way, but
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Then I'll take one of the upper ones and put that at the bottom. So
Right,
it's not necessarily
yeah.
like I usually read my favorite book first. That is what I'll usually do. I usually read like my absolute favorite book or my second favorite book, and then I'll put like a really good one at the bottom. Like if, like, let's say Nightwing's coming out, like I'll usually read Nightwing first.
Yeah.
Do a power bomb though is definitely great. Like sometimes when I get like halfway through a series, like I kind of just want to read the last bit of it at the end, because like sometimes it's hard for me to like keep that excitement, especially like month to month, like, and because I read so much, and I know you do too. So sometimes it doesn't let me enjoy the story as much as I'd like to enjoy it because I'm reading so much stuff in between issues. When I was younger, I couldn't afford as many comics, so like I could read everything and it would all stay in my head because I was only getting like maybe, I don't know. I'd reread stuff too. I don't reread stuff like I used to. Like I don't know if you did this when you were younger, but like when a new issue come out, I'd read the like last 5 issues that came right before I'd get the new one.
Yeah, sometimes I still do that, like you said, because I read so many comics. Like it's like I'm getting older, man. My brain can only retain so much information.
Yeah.
So like I'll at least like keep like the previous issue kind of handy or pull it out of the box and just kind of like skim through it and be like, okay, yeah, It's some titles I don't have to do that with, but some, like I didn't have to do that with Do a Power Bomb, but like something that's like I guess more super continuity based, like something from the big two, I will still do that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this one I didn't have any problem remembering. It's just like I like to have my whole focus be on the entire kind of story. Like that's why I'm really glad like I read it all like this. Like even though I remembered what happened in the first half, like getting to read it boom all 4 at once, just like it just like the energy level, the excitement just was completely different than when I was reading it month to month, even though I loved it, don't get me wrong. But this book, just like I can't say enough praise about it. Daniel Warren Johnson's somebody I would really love a chance to get to talk to and kind of like pick at his brain too, because like the way he does his stories, like all of them have like a similar feel, but at the same time are all very different from one another. Like they're not the same book. Like certain creators like will write the kind of same stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he definitely changes up what he's writing about. I mean, like I think like the only like thing I can say that he does in every title is the injection of that like emotional core that I talked about, and then also of course like fantastic fight scenes. Like you said, his choreography is next level.
Yeah,
like his fights are like he pulls a lot from like fight manga. I think he must be a fan of that kind of stuff because like there's an element of that, especially in this. Like things like Dragon Ball, which have these epic like multi-issue like multi-episode fights. You can tell he's taking that into consideration when he's choreographing and writing his fights because like the genre of fight manga, and if I'm using that term wrong, like I'm sorry, but like I believe that's what people call it, something like Dragon Ball. The fights are important to the narrative because the narrative is being driven forward very much so by what's going on in the fight, not necessarily only the outcome of the fight. because there is a lot of things that happen during these matches that aren't dependent on whether they win or lose. It's information you're given and things that are revealed about the characters during the fight, which is not an easy thing to write, because most people just would want to write the fight scene and just kind of be very basic about it. But no, he's using moments in the fight as character beats and as narrative beats to drive the story forward, to give you something about the character, to help you, to give the character a bit of characterization with how they fight and what kind of moves they do. It's very, very well thought out.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, when people make the argument that there's no good comics or comics aren't as good as they used to be, like, this is the perfect example of what's great about comics. This book right here.
Oh, I recommended this book to so many people last year. You know, like one of my friends that's like, you know, he used to be a diehard comics fan. His name is Lewis, and we talk all the time online, and he's huge into wrestling. And I put him on to this book, and he loved it. You know, like he absolutely loved it. So like, it's a book you can definitely give to someone who might not be a comics fan but is a wrestling fan. Absolutely, man. Like if you're not super into comics but you're looking for something that you're gonna like and you love wrestling, I mean, I haven't read a ton of wrestling comics, but I've read a few. But I can't imagine like a wrestling comic being better than this. You know, like I just can't. You know, like it's such a love letter to two mediums now. You're talking about him, you know, writing about, and like I just looked in the first issue, and then what you were talking about, the how he explains how he got into wrestling, it is in the afterword of the first issue, and like it's a testament to like how much he fell in love with wrestling, that he dived in so deeply that I mean, going from someone that was probably more of a casual wrestling fan to writing something like Do a Powerbomb, which can only be created by someone that immersed themselves in wrestling, is not easy to do either, but he did it.
Yeah, I mean, look, on the surface, like, you tell me it's a wrestling comic, I don't necessarily pick it up. But because it was Daniel Warren Johnson, I did, right? Like,
Yeah.
So like it made me more into it. And
The selling point for me was him, not the wrestling angle, you know?
yeah, and it's like he talks about, you know, like he married two of his loves, comics with wrestling. He did it with Murder Falcon with heavy metal and comics. You know,
Comics,
like it's just it's cool to see that. And like, I don't know if you've read Extremity, but Extremity's phenomenal. It is phenomenal, dude.
I have not, which is something I need to remedy.
Yeah, like
I have read Murder Falcon, which again, great, and that one does pack a huge emotional wallop too. Man.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, that's a book I've been wanting to cover on the channel for a while. I just have, for whatever reason, haven't done it.
We should do it. We should do it.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it. But yeah, I love this book, and I can't. It's hard to talk much more about it without kind of spoiling it, but
yeah,
I get it. Like,
because the revelations are very important to it.
They are very
and
important
like
to it. Yeah,
and like you do not want to go into this book spoiled about what's going on. Like all you need to know is that, you know, it's a wrestling comic, and this, you know, you got these characters that want to bring somebody back to life. They each have their own very personal reasons to do so, and from there on, the story just escalates and twists and turns, and it reaches like a very, very emotional conclusion that is also satisfying. You know,
yeah,
like
that final page. That final page was
flawless. Yeah, dude. It gave me pause. Like, you know, like I don't know how many comics recently have made me like close it, and I just kind of like was like, damn, you know, like
yeah,
like to end on the note that he ends it on, like just it's perfect, man. It's perfect,
dude. I mean, look, it's not always easy to end something, right? When you're like,
no, I think ending things is one of the hardest things about writing.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like, you look at like television shows, right? Like, how many people talk about a series finale and how it just fell flat,
yeah,
you know?
it's hard. It's hard, yeah.
And it's
as
the
a writer,
same
I
thing
can
with
tell you, like,
comics.
that's some of the hardest things I've ever had to do, is like think of the ending of something. Like it is one of the hardest things.
Yeah, because you want to wrap it up, you want to do it in a way that's satisfying to both yourself as a creator and satisfying for the reader. And and like, everybody's going to take something different from what they're either watching on TV, watching in the movie theater, reading in a comic book, reading in a novel. Like, everybody gets a different experience from what they're consuming, right? Like, so you have to, like, I don't know, I'm thinking of myself, if I were going to write an ending, like, I have to think about all these things. Like, you want it to be satisfying on multiple levels. He did it with this. And then even like starting something can also be kind of hard. Like, how do you pull people in? This is one of the best first issues I think I've read in a long time. He gives you,
I agree, man,
so much.
Good point.
But not too much, right? Like just enough to like pull you in. And like from the minute you read that first issue, you put it down, you're like, dude, I have to know what the fuck happens next. And you know, like everything is just so like, from the characters that you meet, like you're just like bombarded with a level of excitement and a level of care that like he put into this world, and it doesn't let go from that first issue all the way to that very final page. You know, it's just, it is, I wish I would have made this one of my picks, but like I said, I was waiting for the trade. But it's one of my favorite books that I've read in a long time. I felt that way with Beta Ray Bill. You know, like when I read that, I've always kind of liked that character, but what he did with the character, and like,
I love Beta Ray Bill.
I'm so excited to see what Daniel Warren Johnson does next. You know, and I just was, as we were talking, I was looking because I couldn't remember. He's gonna be at WonderCon, so I'm definitely gonna fucking stop at his booth. Hopefully,
man, I'm jealous.
Hopefully, he has those fucking Star Wars comics that he always. You seen those Star Wars comics he does?
Oh, dude, I follow his Instagram and his like he's one of my favorite people to follow across social media, because he's constantly sharing commissions he does, sketches he does, like, and they're all great. Like everything, I'm like, I mean, he does a lot of Star Wars drawings. I'm like, I would love to see him do an actual Star Wars book.
Yeah, I don't know why Marvel hasn't seen those.
You know, like give him dude, like a book where he could do like a Star Wars book like that takes place like during the old trilogy or something like that. You know, like it could be a one-off. It doesn't have to be about this new huge continuity that Marvel is trying to build with the Star Wars franchise. You know, like,
dude, imagine. I know this is not gonna happen, but like Star Wars Grand Design by like Daniel Warren Johnson, dude.
Okay, yeah, dude, that's a great idea, and like. If you do meet him, you should just tell him. Like,
I'm gonna tell him, like, why don't you just
great idea,
call Marvel out the same way Ed Piscor did? That's how he got his X-Men Grand
Design. There we are, Marvel. We're calling you out. Let Daniel Warren Johnson do Star Wars Grand Design.
Dude,
come on, you already have the.
I can see it in my head right now, dude. Like all the.
I can too, man. Yeah. But you can take the whole gamut of the entire franchise and work it in somehow.
Yeah, dude, fucking take all the Dark Horse shit, like take what he wants from that and just make his own thing, dude. Because I mean, look, his world building is great, his design is great. The level of detail he puts into his worlds.
Yeah, we didn't mention much, but like he does do a ton of world building.
Yeah.
In Do a Powerbomb without losing focus of the main story, which again is a testament to how much of a great writer he is as well, because that's not easy, you know, like, and there really isn't a lot of exposition here. Like, you get enough of the world and each wrestler by the way he's writing it, not just like info dumping things, you know.
Yeah.
And like the bracket you showed earlier, that was a great way of using something that is part of the wrestling culture to drive the narrative forward. It's visually pleasing. Like he's great at all aspects of comic book storytelling, from the writing to the design to everything, and he knows the people to collaborate with. Like I cannot stress enough how great Russ Wooten, the letterer, and Mike Spicer are in this, and how much of a part of the package they are. And there's a reason he keeps work there. Yeah, and the reason exactly he keeps working with them on different series. So obviously, like they're for lack of a better term, and pun totally intended, what a great fucking tag team, you know, like.
Yeah. No, definitely, dude. I mean, like, this book is just,
and the title is amazing, dude. Do a Powerbomb. What a great, like, because to me the title is like, Powerbomb is a wrestling move, but this book is also an emotional powerbomb. It fucking slams you down emotionally. Yeah. So like it works on so many levels, man. You know, love it. There's a reason I made it one of my top books from last year.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a reason why, like, you know, Daniel Warren Johnson has become one of my favorite creatives over the last few years.
I will blind buy anything he does going forward. Like I see him involved, and I'm picking the book up. Like I'm not even thinking about it. I did it with Jurassic League. I'm gonna do it going forward with anything.
Yeah, I gotta read Jurassic League because I'm kind of curious. Like I was skeptical because I'm like, he didn't draw it though, you know. So like that's why I was like, I'll just wait for this.
His fingerprint is on it though, man.
Okay,
His fingerprint is on it. I recommend it, and you know my sensibilities, so
I do.
I
Yeah.
think you'll like it. Yeah.
Okay, I'll definitely check it out. But for everybody listening and watching, you need to go check out Do a Powerbomb. It
Yep.
was one of the best books to come out last year. It's one of the best trades to come out this year already. So if you were waiting, if you were on the fence, like now's the time to get it. It just came out.
And is that one of Image's like $10 graphic novels, or do you
No,
usually make them? No.
no,
Okay.
this one's 25. But it's also more
Yeah.
than 5 or 6 issues, which usually it's like the 5 or 6.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
This one's 8,
Yeah.
right? Is
But
it
you know
8 or
what? Even
7?
that at that price, like one thing I love about Image is that they do tend to make their trades pretty affordable. And if they're a little higher than some of the intro ones, they're usually packed with a lot of extras and a lot
Yeah.
of incentives. So
And I mean, I would imagine that the spot gloss on this is
yeah,
gonna cost a little bit.
you
So
mentioned that I haven't seen the trade myself in the wild, but I know I know what you mean by spot glass, and I can already imagine how beautiful that will look, especially with his art. So yeah, it's a double dip for me. I'm definitely picking it up.
yeah, so go pick it up and pick up everything by Daniel Warren Johnson. This won't be the last time you're gonna hear about his
Nope.
stuff on Comic Lounge. So on that note, make sure you follow Manny, myself. Our links are down below. Hit the subscribe button, hit that bell icon also so you notified every time a new video goes up. And on that note, we're out.
See you next time, guys.